All right, well, hello everybody, and welcome to another Hort Innovation Extension Team Growing Horticulture Through Networking webinar. My name is Adrian Inglefield. For those of you who don't know me, I'm the Regional Extension Manager for the Southeast. And today we are going to be investigating the use of demonstration sites as an extension tool. But firstly, just a little bit of housekeeping. I am sure that we're all around Zoom etiquette through COVID-19 over the past 12 months. However, I do ask that you remain muted during today's presentations. A friendly reminder that today's webinar will be recorded and will be shared with you all and posted on the Hort Innovation YouTube channel, along with, or I should say next to our previous webinar recording that had a look at segmentation. If you have any questions today, please feel free to type them into the chat function, and if time permits, we will address them. However, if not, we will follow up and answer via the follow-up email. And this email will also include a link to the webinar recording, summary of our breakout room discussions, and of course, further links to the resources from today's presentations. So, what are demonstration sites and what are we demonstrating? Well, across all of our industries, this would vary. However, demonstration sites can include current farming practices and technologies and simply involve farm visits, or they can include on-farm research and development aimed at practice change on a commercial scale with predictable outcomes. The agricultural extension overlap may illustrate R&D applications for regional perspectives, including climate, soils, and baseline or benchmarked agronomic practices, comparison of products, technology and farming practices to standard or current practice, whereby we would have a control in our demonstration site. And from my experience, demonstration sites also bring together industry stakeholders such as growers, agronomists, and processors, encouraging peer-to-peer learning and networking, often with a barbecue and a few drinks. However, there are risks to running demonstration sites. We are all at the mercy of the weather. There's always time pressures with regular maintenance and travel, and program management considerations with delivery oversights or selection of problems or opportunities to address. So, in a moment, we're going to head into small breakout groups to share our demonstration site experiences. I'm sure we all have an interesting story to share. And then we're going to hear from Hort Innovation PI 17,000, or the Pineapple Integrated Crop Protection team members, Bridie Carr and Tim Wallins, and their considerations for successful demonstration site delivery. And then we're going to hear from Carl Larson from RMCG and Bron Walsh, our Hort Innovation Regional Extension Manager for Western Australia, on considerations for delivering demonstration site outputs online. With a quick wrap up and survey, we hope to be finished within the hour. So now we'll head to the breakout rooms and I'll see you all in 20 minutes.
Tim and I will be presenting to you today some information on how we are currently using the demo trials as a key component of the project to help facilitate best practice change. I will begin with a quick overview and background of the project, cover the extension model that we are using, and also how we are integrating the demonstration trials into the extension, before handing over to Tim, who will then go into more detail on the trials and share with you some of the key lessons and advice that he has. And before I begin, I just wanted to acknowledge the pineapple industry and the growers we work alongside who help make this project possible, And for those of you that are unfamiliar with the pineapple industry, it is a Queensland-based industry consisting of around 75 growers who produce around 72,000 tonnes a year of fresh and cannery fruit. So just on the project background and outline and how it came to be. So the Australian Pineapples is the name given to an industry group made up of grower representatives from each of the 4 major growing regions, plus some other key industry stakeholders. It was with this group and the SIAP, concerns were being raised in the community around the future viability of the industry. And this was in particular in regards to the profitability of the industry with the increase in cost of production and the threat of imported fruit. Concerns around the environmental sustainability of the industry, with the crop being grown on poor free draining soil types. There are high levels of sediment, pesticide and nutrient loss being experienced. And concerns around reductions in yields caused by climate, disease and pest pressures. Also, the industry since 2008, with the sale of the grower-owned Golden Circle cannery to Heinz, saw research and development begin to stagnate in the industry. And this area was once funded by Golden Circle on behalf of growers, which also included the luxury of one-to-one agronomic support. So with the sale to a corporate, this R&D was no longer happening in the industry, and the industry leadership saw a real need to get a project up and running to help support growers and also facilitate best practice change within the industry to help combat some of those concerns around profitability, sustainability and yield. So this project came to be with aims to improve the viability and sustainability of the industry by facilitating information dissemination. So this is done through a variety of ways, which include study group meetings, the development of information resources, a grower website and a quarterly newsletter, as well as, why we're all here today, the demonstration trials. So the extension model and philosophy that we're using in this project is the study group meetings, which are the core extension model used in the project. And these are held on farm, usually at those that are hosting demonstration trial sites. These are held twice a year in each of the 4 growing regions, which include North Queensland, Central Queensland, the Wide Bay area and Southeast Queensland. The rustic but formal session is held in the shed, where the local Australian pineapple representative also helps to facilitate. And then after lunch, the group heads out on a farm walk to visit these trial sites, where Tim will showcase some of the findings and give updates on where they are at, as well as an opportunity for the host of the farm to show some key areas of their property and anything else I'd like to showcase to the group. We also really encourage growers from other regions to attend these study group meetings, which isn't a hard sell, fortunately, as these events are really valued in the industry as social events to catch up with friends and keep up to date with what's going on in the pineapple world and the demonstration trial sites. So the extension and integration of the demo site. So these demonstration trial sites are an integral part of showcasing best practice and alternative ways to what growers are currently doing in their own operations. And we use a variety of different platforms and ways to disseminate information to try and keep everyone up to date. So some of these are, we include updates and results in the quarterly newsletter known as the Pineapple Press. We also have a grower website that's been developed as part of this project, which GrowCom helped to manage, and we keep up to date with the results and trial outcomes and things on that website. And we try and encourage growers to go there to kind of treat the website as a one-stop shop for information on these. And Tim provides updates regularly to Natalie to upload and keep these current. We also, which I mentioned previous, we try to hold these study group meetings at the trial sites or the farms that are hosting the trial sites. or at least try and visit them as part of the event so that the growers have the opportunity to visit them in the flesh, which is really important. It's all very well reading about them, but there's nothing better than actually seeing them and being there in person. We also produce a comprehensive set of minutes for each of the study group meetings for those that can't attend or are based in other regions. And a lot of time and effort go into these to make sure they're really easy to read for growers and easy to digest. And lastly, we have the annual Pineapple Party of the Year, which is the Pineapple Industry Field Day, which all the growers congregate to. This year it's in Bundaberg in July, and this will be held in on farm at one of the kind of epicenters of the demonstration trial site areas. So we'll be sharing information on that and making it a key focus of that field day. So yeah, I'll pass over to Tim now, who's going to elaborate on some of the trials in more detail and share some key learnings.
Anyway, thanks for that, Bridie. So just to introduce myself, so my name's Tim Wallins. I've been an agronomist in the industry, in the pineapple industry, for around 22 years. I started off, as Bridie said, at Golden Circle back in the days when Golden Circle was supporting a lot of the R&D and extension and field days in the industry. So I spent 15 years there, and then the remainder just as a private consultant, just out and about helping growers and helping the industry keep moving along its pathway. So at the moment, I still support growers with a lot of agronomic support, but also with the leadership group. I'm the technical advisor too, so I help them out with a lot of their technical requirements, particularly at that leadership level. Plus also I oversee all the R&D in the industry. And I've got to admit, this project, which the industry leadership group has gotten up, probably accounts for, I would say, a good sort of 60-75% of what R&D goes on in the industry. So anyway, I'll just get into it. So what, why, and how? So as Bridie said, I oversee all the demonstration sites in the Integrated Crop Protection Project. And one of the key goals was to establish a lot of small-scale demonstration sites that actually address a lot of the agronomic problems that growers have around the industry. So the key platform for all this was actually using the growers' work, the workshop groups or the extension groups that Bridie has mentioned prior. So those groups, myself and Simon Newitt set those up probably close to 20 years ago now, and they've been a very good model for us to engage the industry directly to the growers, and then the growers to also engage back to the leadership, and which are the connections then to other key entities that help our industries, such as Hort Innovation and GrowCom and DAF and all those. So the platform, we use this platform to basically consult with the growers and identify what were the key main areas that they actually wanted demonstrations to focus in around. So what we did is we identified, we had the workshops, we identified 5 key areas. So for example, sediment and sustainability was one, pesticide management, nutrition, ground preparation, and bed layouts. So that they were some of the key areas that we actually used to, that the growers identified. And then what we then did is we then went into further investigation of those specific issues. So for example, fumigation or precision farming, we went out and actually had a good investigation in what the growers were wanting, and what was out there in other industries that we could adapt and actually bring back into our pineapple industry. So once we did that literature review, I sat down with Bridie and Simon and DAF and GrowCom and basically worked out how can we adapt this process or farming practice back to what we can do here that's a viable option in the pineapple industry. So that was the key in reference to setting up these demonstration sites. And I can't stress more that the planning and organizational side behind the scenes is critical in reference to a good rollout of demonstration sites. So understanding what the growers want, how you go to do it, and then how you go to deliver those results is important to good demonstration sites that the growers and the industry is going to benefit from. I'll just move on to the next slide. So once we got the plans sorted out and what we're going to address over the 17 different sites we have across all of the pineapple industry, so that's from Caboolture all the way through to North Queensland, it was key then to take that down to the next level and understand what the basic requirements are for setting up a demonstration site. So first of all, identifying a good relevant site actually with the problems. So for example, in the picture there, you see with the table and the pineapples, that site there is actually a fumigation site. And that site there specifically has a lot of Phytophthora root rot and root knot nematode. So identifying a site that actually had those problems to then go and field test a range of different fumigants and their performance. That was definitely one of the key points and the first point in reference to starting off a good site selection. The next part was to actually identify the grower. Again, one of the critical points in setting up demonstration sites is choice of a good collaborator. In this case, what we did in that picture there was Pinata Farms. And one of the things we look for is how easy it is for us as a researcher and to do an extension guy to sort of identify a grower that we know is a good operator. They're capable as a farmer, and also that they have good resources. So what I mean by that is that the resources are time. They actually have the funds as well, so that they can ensure that there's going to be no limitations to what we want to do in the demonstration sites. But in reference to capability, those growers, we just ensure that the growers you're working with are capable growers that aren't going to throw in any variables that are going to influence the results at the end of the day. The third point there, and the other critical point in the lessons that I learned, is just to keep it simple. So there is a big difference between demonstration sites and full-blown R&D sites with replicates and all those sort of things. Keeping it simple, because at the end of the day, when you bring those growers to that demonstration site, you want really good, clear visual differences or results that the growers can see at the end of the day. It's very difficult from my experiences to get a bunch of growers at a site and then you've got varying replicates all over the joint and blocks up and down and different patches. It's very hard for a grower to actually visualize how good that practice is going versus their standard practice. So generally what I did is when we set up sites, I did rather large scale sites for us in our industry. And as you can see, again, in that fumigation site there in the bottom right, I had one block, which was about one acre per fumigant, so per product. So there was about 6 blocks there, comparing then their standard practice, comparing then their nil, and all the different products, so that when we took the growers there, they can actually see then the visual differences across one block to the next. So that was one of the keys to getting growers then to potentially adopt. So at the end of the day, you can do lots of R&D, but the adoption is just as important, because if you put all that effort into setting up demonstration sites, but if the growers aren't going to adopt it, that's, you've got to think about why we're actually doing it. So they're the 3 key points that I have learned through this project, of what lessons and advice that I could give in reference to setting up demonstration sites. So the things that have come out of it, one, engagement. So all those different things that Bridie mentioned there about the workshops, the Pineapple Press, the websites, they're all forms of engagement that are key in reference to getting those messages across to the growers. So, but again, I can't stress more, getting growers physically out to the site, in my opinion, is still the best method of engaging growers, so they can visualize one treatment to the next, so that hopefully they can go back to their farms and maybe start thinking about smaller scale trials themselves, or their own demonstration sites on their own farm. Part of the whole process that the whole engagement is about is, if you continually keep grower involvement going, it also creates a lot of ownership as well. And again, this is where those workshops came in handy, because they basically allowed us to take growers from day one all the way through the whole planning, consultation, planning, implementation, and then results phase. And you'll find that with growers, if they can, if you can continue to encourage their participation, it'll create ownership. And also the key point there is continue maintaining that interest, so that when those results at the end of the day come out, again, the key point there is they can see what's happening. They can compare what your treatment is to standard practice. And the point then is taking that back to their farms. So adoption is the end point to all this, showing them through the demonstration sites where you're trying to create or encourage a practice change, giving them visual ways to actually identify and take in those messages of what one trial does over their standard practices, and then getting them to take that back to their farms and do it on their farm is the key to all the R&D and all the adoption and all the R&D and all the demonstrations that we have. So adoption is key at the end of the day. Can I just move to the next slide? So I'll just give you a quick case study. So this site here is Little Bella Pines, and basically it's located just north of Bundaberg, and its location is on a small creek called Little Bella Creek, which flows into the ocean. So from that site there to the Great Barrier Reef is about 10 kilometres. So in this case here, it's obviously a sustainability trial. And what we are looking to do is, one, we identified a strategically located site that has a problem. And in this case, this farmer has a lot of concerns around sustainability and environment due to his close proximity to the reef. And what we did is we modified what we do on our farms in reference to capturing our silt and our runoff. And we modified our silt traps to become a lot broader and shallower. And in this case, trying to understand the impact of heat and light on chemicals and nutrient bound to sediment particles. So this is this here, as a demonstration site. We've taken the growers now twice to this demonstration site through our workshops. We also have our annual Pineapple Field Day coming up in July this year. And again, we'll come back and we'll actually keep revisiting these sites, and we'll show them the results through all the different platforms. And then hopefully we can push the messages out there on the practice change from what we've done with our silt traps to now what we call sediment traps, and hopefully start seeing this as a change in our standard industry practices. So I think that's about it. Sorry. So thank you for that. I know a little bit, I do sort of get carried away, but thank you for bearing with me in that anyway. And as I said, that is one of 17 different sites that we have located all over the industry. And I think at this stage, we've taken all of our growers to 14 of those 17 sites. It's been great through the workshop groups. So, and that's been just over a 2-year period. So anyway, thank you for that.
Thanks, Tim and Bridie. We might just keep moving into the next item on our agenda, interviewing Carl Larson from RMCG. Also, thanks, Sarah, for your comment in the chat. I encourage everybody to use that to give your thoughts and comments. So, Carl, would you like to introduce yourself and your recent experience with demo sites?
Yeah, thanks, Bron, and hi, everyone. Thanks very much for having me along today. And the experience we're going to talk through, or the case study today, is the East Gippsland Vegetable Innovation Days, really around a forced transition to a virtual setting because of COVID. So just very quickly about the project that I'm involved in delivering along with AHR is the Soil Wealth and Integrated Crop Protection Project. So that's about getting soil management and plant health R&D onto farms and into practice. As part of that project, we run a network of 12 demonstration sites. This particular example today is a little bit different in that it was a field day, but a lot of parallels and lessons building on what Tim and Bridie have already covered.
Thanks, Carl. So you've said it's a forced transition. What were the extra logistics involved in going online or going virtual?
Yeah, so look, essentially the problem that we had was the first lockdown here in Victoria. So don't hold that against me, and I sympathise with our fellow Victorians on the line. We had a major biannual multi-day industry field day that we're involved in as partners. But I should also say that this was the lion's share and brainchild of the organising committee who were pictured off to the right there. It was in May of last year. There was about a good 10 or 12 months of planning with the demo plots with all of the major agrochemical and seed companies involved and demonstrating new varieties, emerging products and that type of thing. And we were just one of the extension partners, I guess, to amplify that reach. So in losing those face-to-face extension channels, we had to think about, well, what else do we do? And in terms of your question, Bron, around resourcing, it was probably a lot more work for me, for one person, over the 3-day field days themselves. However, did minimise things like planning and travel for other members of our team. So a monster effort for one of us on our project for 3 days versus, a moderate effort for 5. It was reasonably similar, if not less.
And what about did you have to bring in extra skill sets, or did you already have that within your team, and what were they?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, we were discussing in our breakout groups before just some of the lessons from COVID, and I think the benefit we had was already using some of these extension tools like webinars, Zoom discussion groups, or social media, and being able to be reasonably familiar with those, but ratchet them up when we needed to, when everyone was trying to figure out, how and what to do, was really beneficial. So what we did in transitioning to these virtual field days was have a multi-pronged approach. So we had some Facebook live streams with the agrichem and seed trials to provide, insights into what was coming online. We then held a bit more of an in-depth Zoom discussion group on the cover crop trials at the same site, and then offered a separate go-to webinar panel on the cover crops, but also some strip till and pest management with slug and snails.
So given that it was a big change in format, what was your participation like? And was it different people or extra people?
It's always an interesting one, isn't it? The $1 million question of who you reach. So having been involved in this event 2 years prior, there was really great face-to-face connection and attendance of about 200 or 300 people over the 3 days. It's in Lindenau, so for those people that don't know, it's 4 hours east of Melbourne. So for even Victorians, but also interstate and international, it is a difficult place to get to, although fantastic and a highly clustered, advanced vegetable production area. So having that option of the online, you can see some of the viewing stats of those live streams at the bottom there. We were getting to 500 to 600 views on the day or within the 24 hours after delivering those events. So, potentially double, if not triple, which was a really great outcome. And I think too, just that mixed mode in platform, but also times and content. So people could just duck into things that were relevant to them for 20 minutes to an hour and then drop back out. We had guest speakers from around the country that were obviously not able to come in to Victoria, that were still able to participate and get their knowledge, which was fantastic. But we also had some lessons from some of the demonstrating companies, plus also other service providers and growers that, you know, they had teams in New Zealand and Spain and Netherlands that were actually able to attend these things when they wanted to. So that's, I think, a really key lesson around accessibility, along with that reduced travel onus as well. Added to that, we could have the recordings to leverage later on.
That's great. So given that the extra reach, but the extra effort in some gaps, would you do it again going forward outside of COVID? What's your thinking there?
Yeah, look, I think we would, and we have continued to do that. Some of the insights here just around design, I think it's being really clear on the purpose. So for us, it was about what are the advances in soil management and plant health that are going to benefit growers in the industry, and how do we get them aware of those? I think, you know, it takes a team, and I've mentioned there that collaboration is king. This was just a monster effort. We were just such a small part of delivering some of those findings and being the conduit from a communication and engagement point of view with our research team. And as COVID's taught us, you know, you can have a plan, but be ready to be flexible to varying degrees, usually quite a lot. But being able to think on your feet, having a simple set of questions for the interviewing. We only had 2 or 3 for each of the 16 demonstrating companies, got round to them, gave them 5 to 10 minutes each. So it wasn't laborious, but was also gave a good little snapshot and insight that people could follow up in a bit more detail. So Caitlin, just the next slide around impact, and getting to your question there, Bron, around would we do it again? I think a hybrid approach is probably where we'd meet. So rather than all face-to-face and all online, reaching that midpoint where you have either the champion or the key informant and the lead grower on farm, perhaps with the managing agronomist and a member of the research team to beam out either in a podcast or a video or live stream. We've definitely adopted those aspects in other elements of our demonstration site management around the country. We've also found things like Zoom grower discussion groups are really great for people just to duck in for half an hour and duck back out without, say, leaving the farm or being, you know, in transit if they are between their properties. So I think, you know, being able to make it active and engaging online is a lot easier now, just around the norms and some of the, I guess, forced adoption of the technology, which has been a really good outcome, I think. And that ability just to keep the conversation going, it does take a bit of vigilance, but, you know, things like social media and pushing through other channels, you know, we heard from Bridie and Tim and the team that things like e-news and industry publications, it's great to get that message out and leverage it further.
Great, thanks. So being conscious of time, we might go over to Adrian, who will wrap up for the day. Thanks, Adrian.
Thanks, Bron and Carl. There were some great insights there from the East Gippsland Vegetable Innovation Field Days. And we'll be sure to share the links to those remotely produced resources. This brings us now to the conclusion of the webinar. But before you leave, Caitlin is going to pop a survey up into the chat function. And I just ask that if you could please take a couple of minutes to finish that survey before you finish up today, that would be greatly appreciated. I would also just like to take the opportunity to introduce a number of demonstration site extension resources that are available. On the Extension Oz website, for example, there's a World Vision article that I've referred to previously. And during the start of the pandemic, the Horde Innovation Extension team wrote a fact sheet called Remote Extension Tips and Tools, which you may be familiar with, but one that I will reshare again. However, for those of you that aren't familiar with the farm demo training kit, from Europe, if there is one resource that I would really like to highlight, it would certainly be this one. It's an absolutely fantastic website that contains all sorts of resources, including guides on how to design on-farm and virtual demonstration sites. There's further guides on preparation and delivery of demonstration sites, and also some really useful resources on demo site evaluation. There is also a farm demo network linking demonstration sites across Europe based on common demonstration site topics and themes. So, for example, you can search on a map for water use efficiency in horticulture, and all the demonstration sites addressing that issue will pop up, and you can sort through them and click to view their individual content. So it's a really neat resource, I should say, and one that we could certainly aspire for here in Australia. And just before I sign off, our next catch up is scheduled for Hort Connections for the delivery partners. Registrations for the conference are open, and we certainly hope to see you all there, but certainly acknowledging that there may be some further considerations around COVID-19 and the ability to travel. So we are certainly planning an event for delivery partners at Hort Connections, and the team will keep you posted with developments as soon as possible, and most definitely as soon as they occur. So on behalf of the Hort Innovation Extension team, I'd certainly like to thank you for participating in today's webinar. And once again, just a friendly reminder to please click on the link to the survey. And I hope to see you all next time. Thank you.